remember back in the late 90s, there was a thriving gay life in Akron, Ohio, but it was probably in the bowels of Akron, in the downtown, and it happened late night in the bars. There were groups that said, give us money, and we did. We would send this money to Washington, and it never came back. So ultimately, it's like, where's the benefit for us living in this small town, Akron, Ohio? Why don't we have a party, a fundraiser, and bring the money and let it stay in Akron? On August 29th, 1999, we hosted a get-together. We called it Outreach. We were having an outreach party is what it was.
All we wanted to do was have a party. We developed that conversation then into what has become the Gay Community Endowment Fund.
I came out in the 80s. I can remember when I first came out, one of my closest friends was an accountant. She says, one thing you need to remember, you never come out to anybody that has less to lose than you do. I can remember Steve Schmidt coming up to me and saying, we've got to raise money for our community so that we can grow our community. And I said, okay, well, I'm all in.
We assembled a committee that was kind of our strategic planning committee. A group of us gathered together on a monthly basis to talk about what the mission, vision, and values of the organization were going to be. And we went through a very intentional process of deciding to affiliate with the Akron Community Foundation, and I think that has been a real strong asset for the fund and its sustainability.
This is a good one. That's the Patron Home 2003, Jody Bacon and Steve there.
My mom was a fierce advocate for her friends, for her community, and for the foundation. She didn't think twice when Steve and Rick came to her about establishing an affiliate fund at ACF to support programs and services benefiting Akron's LGBTQ+ community in perpetuity. She knew how important and needed it was, and she knew that Akron is special and that it was the right thing in the right place at the right time.
Gay Community Endowment Fund actually was chartered in 2001. And we set about raising funds to support the Gay Community Endowment Fund.
Some of my earliest memories, I think, were sitting around the boardroom table at the Akron Community Foundation. We were kind of saying, what do we have here? How can we make this work? I think we were concerned how we could approach the community and look to them for their support, not necessarily financially, but at least support of what we were trying to accomplish and how we were trying to fund organizations in the long run that were needed to be funded and help the gay community.
The first Sugar Plum was December 15th, 2002, which was a couple years after we met. The first Sugar Plum raised $13,000, and we thought that was hot. 20 years later, we raised over $200,000.
I remember working on it where we were saying, oh my gosh, this is going to be done in 10 years. We're never going to have enough houses to be on this tour. And 20 years later, it's going strong.
In order to make grants into the community, we had to have a certain amount of money invested within the corpus or the endowment. And it wasn't until our good friend Paul Dahm passed away unexpectedly, and that was 2005.
So that really supercharged our ability to make gifts and make the grants that we really wanted to do. He was just such a good friend to all. And I think we've honored Paul through the years by dedicating the Sugar Plum Tour to him, and also our Exhale event with the Paul Dahm Award, which we give out annually.
Now we could give better grants, larger grants, grants that were more meaningful to the organizations involved, because that was one of our goals, is to let people know what we're doing, but bring the communities together, and I think we accomplished that.
Having an organization, a fund like the Gay Community Foundation to give to an organization, oftentimes it's really hard to build that trust with people who've already been hurt. The dollar amount may have been small, but the impact was huge.
Absolutely.
Hope and Healing Survivor Resource Center, which many people know, formerly known as the Battered Women's Shelter and the Rape Crisis Center Summit in Medina County, was one of the early benefactors of the fund. And it really set a tone in the community that individuals from the LGBTQ+ community can trust us as an entity to help them on their healing journey after experiencing something horrific as sexual violence or domestic violence.
Your mission was so important that, yes, we went ahead with it and said, let's do this, we've got to.
And we're celebrating 10 years of being in that building this year. So with support of individuals and the foundations like you all, we have been able to continue to provide free services to survivors in Summit County.
28 million people were diagnosed with HIV/AIDS worldwide. We were finding medicines that would help, but just like today, there are social inequities that are still not addressed. In those times, there just wasn't many resources for the gay community. And when GCEF offers that to CAN, or Canopy as we're known now, those were resources that weren't available anywhere else. And we are grateful for what GCEF did for us.
Every year, the requests have exceeded what we're able to give, even with our current $2 million plus in endowment. And we've given away, what, over $1 million now in grants. But the requests have far exceeded that every year.
There are a lot of different events we're doing through the year that support the organization. Exhale is just a really wonderful opportunity for us to celebrate us.
Now, one of the relatively more recent developments in the Gay Community Fund has been supporting scholarships for students. And that's another aspect of the charitable giving of the Gay Community Endowment Fund.
We've given the scholarships, like the kids fill out the scholarships, then they're honored at that event if they wish to be. Particularly now, with what's been happening in the country and the attacks on gay people, it takes me back to the 80s and what it felt like in the 80s. I see these young people in particular and think, you know, they have never lived through having to be deeply in a closet. You know, we have to step up and sort of give them a hand and say, this is going to be okay. We're going to get through this. You know, you're not alone. You know, you are not alone.
No matter what, we need dollars. Without dollars, we can't do what we do. And unfortunately, those are at risk. So having organizations like GCEF helping support our mission helps us continue.
I don't think any of us could have envisioned 25 years down the road where we would be. And I think we've all could agree that we've exceeded expectations with an endowment now that is approaching $3 million and gifts back into the community of over $1 million. You can't even really translate that into the number of lives that have been impacted by the Gay Community Endowment Fund.